White Black Boy, written by Byron Andreas, narrated by Ron Garner. White Black Boy is a memoir about a multiracial person developing a positive racial identity after many years of bullying, racial harassment, prejudice for being in an LGBTQ family, and struggling with self-esteem issues. Part of what made this character's struggle particularly harsh is because of the negative depiction of African Americans in the media and lack of representation of African Americans in public schools, especially in history books and literary classes, which is a serious issue of diversity that we still struggle with today in the United States. While this book talks about racism, it has a character that struggles with racism and eventually overcomes. Any racial language, foul language, misogynist language, anti-LGBTQ language is supposed to articulate the ignorance of some people and some social attitudes of the late 90s and 2000s, where a bulk of this book takes place. The point of this book is to talk about ignorance to spark change, the same way books like James Baldwin's Another Country and If Beale Street Could Talk has the same effect. Prejudice is a very serious issue in this society, and this book is to combat those problems. I believe in a very realistic book, and I also believe it's important to articulate my intention and also provide a discretionary message so people understand the intention. Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. Martin Luther King Jr. Chapter 1. Knife. "I gotta shit. You gotta come with me because of the buddy system," Derek said. I followed him to the park bathroom. Derek looked like most of the other teens there, tall like a grown man, muscles like he pumped iron every day, and wore sagging jeans. I was the shortest kid, and only skinny kid there. Nobody was talking to me, maybe because I was the only one who wasn't there the year before. It was cool that Derek noticed me because I was sick of being the lonely kid. A few teens jumped in front of us, and Derek joined their group. Water grenades pelted me. It felt like frozen kicks to the balls, stomach, and face. They all pointed and laughed. I felt violated that they ruined my clothes. Why were they so mean? I had never been around this many black kids before. They were as vicious as the camp counselors in Albany, and there were already 3 fights today. Was it in the nature of their race? "Byron?" Dier, one of the camp counselors, called out as he rushed over. The teens scrammed and watched us from a graffiti-covered basketball court. I lost all respect for Dier the first time I saw him that morning. He looked like a stereotype. He wore a white do-rag and red cargo shorts sagging around his waist, had ugly tattoos all over his brown arms, had one lit Newport cigarette on an ear, and smelled like he had never heard of a toothbrush. He stood in front of me. "What happened?" I looked like I was going to cry. "One," Dier started. Did I deserve to get bullied? Maybe this was karma because I graduated PS6 last month and was the biggest bully there. I kicked apart a Chinese dragon that a kindergarten class hung outside their classroom. When the principal invited students to have pepperoni pizza with her weekly, I would leave immediately after eating a bulk of it. I accidentally kicked Bradley in the balls during a soccer game and laughed my ass off while Mrs. Lawrence elaborated on how it wasn't funny. On the playground and in gym class, in every sport and game we played, I would do WWF moves on people. I pissed on the bathroom ceilings, hoping it would drip down on everyone all day. Many times, Grandma Madeline said, "Jesus has a way of getting you back," and it was happening now. 2. Dier kept counting. PS6 had very few blacks, so was this how they really were? I thought so because black kids misbehave on every TV show and were always getting arrested on the news. 3. "Okay, you're sitting out a basketball tomorrow." Dier walked away. Derek and his friends were all making faces at me, and then they started playing basketball. I felt an anger I had never felt before because they violated me, and Dier didn't care. I brushed it off because it started to downpour. I wouldn't have to tell Bruce and Alan what happened, knowing how they overreacted towards everything. I didn't realize then that saying nothing made me an easy target for the next 2 months there. There's a prison yard mentality at Wagner Middle School and the Wagner Summer Program. Matt told me how some kids wanted to start a fight with him his first day at Wagner. So Matt slapped them as hard as he could on their chest, and nobody ever fucked with him again. Bruce always told us to walk away or tell a teacher, but it never solved anything. Bruce and Alan never taught us to fight back or stand up for ourselves, and I once told Matt that they're raising us to be girls. It would be justifiable to hurt my bullies, but do I really want to get arrested? Do I want to live with the regret of hurting someone for the rest of my life? All those bullies started with me on the first day, and they have not fucked off. Andre started a fight with me a month into the summer program while he was having baseball practice. He swung at the ball and missed. "You suck more at baseball than your grandma does on my 10-foot dick," I shouted. All the kids on the green bleachers with me laughed their asses off. Being the funny kid lessens the bullying. These people were never going to respect me being my quiet, smart self, so why not be an ignorant black thug just like everyone else? "Byron, I told you to shut up," Solomon called out. He was the umpire that day. Andre glared at me before resuming. He swung his bat and missed again. "You shouldn't look down like when you're licking guys' assholes," I taunted. Andre chucked the iron bat 50 feet in the air and stormed towards the bleachers. The kids cleared a path as he neared me at the top, keeping their wise-ass smirks on us. They started chanting, "Fight!" and formed a semicircle. The white visitors of Central Park saw this and then scrambled with their babies and miniature dogs. I bet they probably saw all of us as niggers. The thought embarrassed me deeply. Andre was less than 12 feet away. I think about turning around and jumping off the back of the 50-foot bleachers. Solomon dashed towards us. The other camp counselors bolted, cutting their cigarette breaks short. Andre grabbed my shirt. I felt violated again. Even though that made me angry, I knew fighting back would be impossible. Jamal, a kid in the semicircle, shouted, "Come on! We will see if Byron's going to fight back or if he's a faggot." Solomon grabbed Andre's right hook, and Andre released me. All the kids booed. "Byron, I told you to shut up," Solomon said. My head dropped in shame. "And Andre, you're better than this," Solomon continued. "I've known you since you were 8 years old. The purpose of this camp is to have a good time." Solomon addressed the whole camp. "We waste so much time on stupid stuff and embarrassing ourselves. The two smartest kids here are acting like thugs. Wherever we all go in our lives, remember this. All this violence and pointless anger is doing nothing more than wasting your energy." Everyone cheered and applauded him. We all left before NYPD came. It meant something to me that Solomon called me smart. He also broke many stereotypes for me. He was wise with his words, never cursed, and never sagged his pants. It was cool he believed in me. No one had ever made me feel that way before. He was someone that should be respected and emulated. The two smartest kids here are acting like thugs. I thought about Solomon's words, and I realized that I was a huge hypocrite. Solomon was right to call me a thug when I admonished black people. When was I going to judge myself as much as I judged others? All the teens there were acting like kids, and perhaps their delinquency had nothing to do with their race. The air pulled me aside. "Looks like you don't act brave when it comes to fighting back." I put aside what Solomon said. Why was no one bringing up Andre putting his hands on me? Was the air telling me to fight back? I am so furious that people could put their hands on me and only one black person in that group cared enough to protect me. Solomon was the only good black person there, but everyone else was bringing the worst out of me. Every week there, my headaches felt more pressured and strained, and my heart pulsated more and more. I got anxiety thinking about what was going to happen to me next. Columbine happened in April this year, and one of the causes was bullying. Wagner Middle School and its summer program cared about punishing violence, but not the causes of violence. What would the Columbine shooter say to me right now? After Mrs. Erica told us what was happening the day of the Columbine shooting, there were some kids in PS6 who saw the shooters as heroes for standing up to their bullies. Yesterday, Alan picked out my clothes before he left in the morning, so I ended up in short shorts and ridiculously tall socks. I told him that guys were supposed to wear shorts that go to their shins, but he always responded with, "You're being ridiculous," and "Please stop wearing pants to camp. They're not summer clothes." What I didn't tell him was that people were saying that I looked like a faggot. Derek put my backpack on top of the rusted red YMCA lockers. Many black hands tried pulling off my briefs. It was a cardinal sin to wear briefs and not boxers. Nate looked around, making sure a camp counselor didn't come in. They gave me a few punches to the gut with someone holding my arms behind their back. I started to feel pressure in my kidneys and wanted to vomit. I also imagined myself being strong enough to beat the shit out of everyone there. When were people going to leave me alone? Why didn't people respect my body? In the pool area, dodgeballs pelted my face when I lost my breath from hiding underwater. They bullied me for not taking the test to swim in the deep end of the pool. Derek pulled my leg, and I went under the water and was pulled into the middle of the deep end. This kept happening over and over, and the lifeguard did nothing. I screamed in anger and rage under the water. You need to scream at them, or you will die of a heart attack, my body kept telling me over and over. There was an episode of Dragon Ball Z called The Explosion of Anger that aired yesterday. Goku, the main character, became so enraged after seeing his friend get killed that Goku evolved in a new quantum of power, causing typhoons and immense plasma storms. He transformed into this blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white-skinned warrior with blue electricity emanating from him with an aura of yellow energy enveloping his body. It was one of the most badass visuals and realest feelings that I ever felt. All of the rage I was feeling and how it was transforming me made me feel so powerful that I imagined destroying everyone there. The summer program, Wagner Middle School, and Lincoln Park Camp in one blast of energy like Goku could. It took me years and years to realize that I could take my wrath and use it positively like Goku did. But today, I was hurting so much. I popped out of the water and onto the poolside. I'm going to bring a fucking knife. Everyone looked at me like black deer in the headlights. I felt like Matt after he told me how he fought back. Nobody was going to fuck with me now. I gave all those fuckers a middle finger and left. As I stormed off, I also felt like crying. Why was the whole world pushing me to be so angry? I ran home in the rain. Why did this keep happening to me everywhere I moved to? Was it in black human nature to be an asshole? What should I do since these people were going unpunished? Why didn't my parents teach me to fight back? It was so sad an 11-year-old had to deal with all of this. Today, I put a large knife in my backpack, just like I told him I would. Why were all those black kids pushing me to do this? Should I follow Solomon's advice? There was a week and a half of summer camp left, so should I just ride it out instead of taking the knife? In the living room, I saw a picture of Grandma Madeline with me. She was wearing her black shades and I was wearing her other pair. She was one of the handful of people I truly loved. I knew she would never love a murderer, so maybe it would be better to kill myself now than kill other people. I go back to the kitchen and see my parents' bedroom was left open. There was a crib, diaper genie, and a large teddy bear in there. Bruce, Alan, and I went to Brother Jimmy's barbecue on a Kids Eat Free Friday pitching baby names for my new brother. He was expected in September, and we decided to name him Jordan. Bruce was flying to Kentucky to pick him up after he was born. It was my job to love, protect, guard, and guide him through this awful world. I didn't want him to grow up hurting inside like I was. There was a lot of things that I needed to prepare him for. For Jordan, I could last another week and a half of being bullied. Maybe I should be a leader to him like Solomon. I put the knife back in the kitchen, grabbed my backpack, and left. When I arrived at the summer camp, Dier got in front of me. Byron, come with me. I followed him to Solomon's office. A school police officer was sitting there. Officer Calandria dumped my bag out on the moldy and dusty floor, finding a towel, red swimsuit, deodorant, crumbled dollars, quarters, white chocolate Hershey bar, a lunch dad pack that I forgot to toss because I never wanted it, Surge sodas, and a few grocery bags to put wet clothes in. I sat in a chair, feeling like a great burden was lifted. We just talked to your father, Solomon said. We considered kicking you out. Was Bruce going to lose his shit tonight? As they discussed things, the mood was heavy in the room, so they took their time with every word. Their words had some sadness in them, too. Because of Columbine, we take every threat seriously, Officer Calandria said. And you need to stop picking fights, Pierre added. One more problem, and you're gone. Byron, you need to remember that anger is like soda. If you shake it a bunch of times, it doesn't matter how strong you are. All of that pressure is going to burst, Solomon said. You need to tell an adult when someone is messing with you. I'm going to tell everyone that no one is going to mess with anyone anymore. I looked up as we all left. Everyone who bullied me, plus other kids, had watched the whole meeting in the basement office by looking down a fractured storm drain. They all scrambled like monkeys when they noticed me. That angered me so much that I chose not to take Solomon's advice, because them watching all of us reinforced that only I was in trouble. I also felt superior and different than all of them because they were only strong in numbers and were just cowards. I could take their abuse. They were all afraid of me after one threat, but I learned as I got older that just because I can scare people with my words, it doesn't show how strong I am. When I got home, after spending 10 minutes in the hallway outside of the apartment, knowing I may get screamed at, Bruce told me to sit at the dining room table with him. Tell me what happened today. He sounded somber, as if he were crying or going to cry. I never remembered him acting that way before. I told him about what happened at the pool in Solomon's office. Why didn't you tell me? Bruce asked. Boys aren't supposed to talk about their problems. Do you know how asinine that sounds? You could have gotten arrested or expelled before the school year starts. I couldn't tell him and Alan anything because I envisioned them trashing up the new apartment if I came home all soaked from water grenades or bloodied if Solomon didn't stop Andre. I wanted to tell him, Bruce, you overreact to everything, so I don't want to deal with you and Alan's drama. You both have always made me feel too uncomfortable to tell you anything. My brother's going to kick your ass. Bruce looked intimidating as he said that. I want you to practice saying that. Shut up, or my brother's going to kick your ass. One thing I could never do was show anger in front of my parents, so I didn't respond and looked speechless. Bruce slapped the table. You're going to learn how to say it now because you're not going to be threatening anybody with a knife anymore, child. I gave it a few tries. He then told me to stop, perhaps realizing how uncomfortable it was. Also, they mentioned you would buy a lot of food from vendors. Where did you get the money? Bruce asked. I find money lying on the streets. I took money from Matt's Brontosaurus piggy bank and my parents' change jar too, but they didn't need to know that. That's going to stop. Stop wasting money on shit. They were really throwing me under the bus, even Solomon. Should I just tell Dad that Solomon took us to see the Blair Witch Project and Dier then snuck me and a few kids into the South Park movie? Maybe I should bring up the water grenades and how afterward, Derek and his friends were watching a screaming 4-year-old girl being bathed and were joking about her non-existent tits, tiny pussy, and tiny asshole? Did anybody else get their parents called on them? I guess nobody punished the bullies. Maybe it was black guys looking out for other black guys. Solomon told me that you want to live until you're 25 years old? I was just joking, I said, even though I meant it for a long time. I am going to kick your ass if I ever hear you say anything like that again, Bruce said. And no TV and no Nintendo for 3 days because you didn't bring the problem to me. I looked at my arms that night and meditated on my color. It was ugly because a few skin tones darker than me was the color of those people I despised. I became more than 50% hateful and distrusting of blacks because of that summer camp. Solomon was why I kept it at 50% and not 100%. At 11 years old, I was a long way from learning what I know at 32 years old. It isn't the color of the skin that matters. It is the color of the heart. Solomon was evidence that not all blacks are shitty people. He was also evidence that not all black people are assholes, and that at least one person could believe in me and think I'm smart. I should have listened to Solomon. His advice would have helped me a lot when I was going to Wagner Middle School in the fall. There, it wasn't 30 black inner city kids. It was thousands that I would have to deal with on a daily basis.